Well, Minister Scott, thank you first of all for taking the opportunity to address the country regarding yesterday's incidents, disturbing incidents. You were at the National Sports Center. An enjoyable game, obviously. Right. But then to be at a scene or at an event and see the scenes following the game, people running back into the stadium, these type of things.
And let's say, I mean, first of all, those are good police presence at the stadium. These incidents happened outside of the stadium, and really, even though there was a bit of a scuffle, you didn't really see that something was happening until you saw a large amount of people running back through the gate, really trying to run for cover, if you will. And it's sad because these things have such a significant negative impact on sports and the country as a whole. We're looking at hosting some major international events. You see that after stabilizing some of the decline that we've had over the years, you see the green sprouts, if you will, of recovery coming back into play. And a lot of this recovery requires external forces, external capital, external events coming to Bermuda and such. And these things have a significant negative impact on that. So, it just... fortunately, no one was killed yesterday. Both the incidents in town and then the follow-on incidents up in Somerset. It's sad. It's sad that these things are actually linked to our national sports as well, because it just really it's a dark cloud. It's a dark cloud over it.
Now, effectively, this has an impact on a wider range of our sports that we do in Bermuda. How do we address this in a sporting manner? Because it actually centers around sports. I know a lot of people try to say it doesn't. It happened outside the grounds. Yes, it did, but it always seems to be congregated around sports.
Right. Well, I think there's two answers to that. What we've been doing over the last couple of years, especially, the police have been playing a lot, have been doing a great job. We've had a lot of people on the ground talking with these young men and just trying to keep the temperature down, if you will. And we've had a relative period of calm, and things like this could spiral out of control real easy. So of course there's a lot renewed effort to just talk with these guys and see if we can get just continue the calm from a longer term perspective, actually. And interestingly enough, I was asked this a couple weeks ago, and someone said, responsible for all of these social programs and a lot of this stuff is unsustainable. If you had to do one thing to help alleviate as much as possible, what would that be? And after thinking about it for a minute, it said, let's get structured sport back even in the elementary school. Because if you think about the antisocial behavior and learning how to play nice with people who are on your team, people who are not on your team, the discipline and structure that comes along with that. Well, we don't have that at a young age, and these are just consequences of that. So certainly we need to contain these things as they exist, but if we want to continue to not grow this problem and to put things in place now that stop it down the road, we've got to get these structured programs back in the school. We've got to teach children unfortunately some of the things that they're not always getting at home, the discipline, the structure, the respect for themselves and for teammates and for adversaries, if you will, on other teams. Those sort of things go a long way, and we see this is just another one of the negative consequences that happen as a result of this.
Now, every year there's a meeting with the national sports governing bodies, and issues are discussed about plans of action. The national sports policy is up and running.
Right.
Bringing together those groups to discuss not just the significant problems that they're having, but some that others are having, to put it all on the table.
Right.
Is this a good time to get everybody together and just see how we can collectively, if something's working for one and not working
Right.
for another, to kind of...
Well, I think we've done some of that. I mean, or you were a part of some of the meetings we
Yes.
had in the workshops when we were developing this national sports policy, and those conversations were being had. And we're in we have a unique scenario in Bermuda because across the world, if you will, sport is used as a way to, as an alternative to antisocial behavior and that sort of thing. When you look at our national sports, and cricket and football are our national sports, a lot of that antisocial behavior or is centered around, some of our best players or associates of them. So we've got this unique dynamic in Bermuda that we have to figure out a way to address. And I believe that talking to these guys and having dialogue goes a long way, because I know in my up in my neighborhood, when I'm talking with some of these guys, and they're like, Scotty, look, man, we've got to do something about this, because Bermuda's a small place to begin with, and we're stuck in our neighborhoods. We can't even leave our neighborhoods. That's a problem in an island that's 21 square miles. So this is a community issue. It's not something that we can say, oh, well, it's just centered around football and cricket, and let's just leave it over there. No, this affects everyone in Bermuda. And if you look at again, some of the things that are missing, the discipline, the structure, these guys are getting together because they need a sense of unity and family somewhere, and if that's the only place to get it, so if we don't find a way as a community to help and give our youth what they need, by default they're going to find it in ways that are destructive to our country. So we've got to keep this dialogue going, and we have to have this conversation as a community, and we've got to work together as a community, and within our communities continue to do things to strengthen our youth, because our young kids today are the same ones tomorrow that are involved in this behavior that we saw yesterday, and it's destructive.
What are some of the options or ideas that these young men who you guys have been talking to, what are some of the things they want you to address?
Well, I was talking with a young kid at a particular residential facility a couple months ago. I don't really want to name the facility. And I got this young guy kind of aside, and I'm talking to him, and it was just like, what can I do? Not just me as an individual, me as a government, as a leader of this country, what can I do to help you? And his response was that our black men need to step up, because my mother, my grandmother can't teach me certain lessons that my fathers can. So if our fathers are not stepping up, and this is what our young people are calling out for, we've got to find a way to address that. Because if you've got latchkey kids, if you will, it's different. When when I was young, and you got your mother not working, one parent's home, or at least an auntie or somebody around. Well, now that's just everybody's out and working to make ends meet. So you've got kids that are taking care of themselves, and if they don't have the structure and support at home, well, they gravitate sitting together out on a wall. By default, they're labeled, and you know, and every group of kids that sit out on the wall together are not, you know, involved in getting in trouble. You know, some of these kids are just kind of hanging out because they're with their mates. But you know, society that's instantly labeled, which kind of pushes them further into that label. You know, so we've just really got to find a way to continue to address this. I believe that you know, certainly government cannot be responsible for raising children where families are broken down. But you talk about that mental, physical, and spiritual aspects of human beings. Well, we're doing a good job of trying to teach the mental part. We're doing what we need to, you know, to do to get structured curriculum in place. We're falling short of the physical with, you know, teaching these kids structured athletics in school, but now the Department of Ed does have Aunt Amanda is responsible for doing this, so that's a role that hasn't been filled in years, so hopefully we'll start to see some benefit come out of that. And the spiritual part, you know, without getting caught up with one religion or the other, you know, spirituality is just kind of loving your neighbor as yourself. So what is that? That's respect for yourself and others and discipline. So at its simplest sense, we start to address those. We're taking care of the mental, physical, and spiritual. So these are things that I think as a community we have to address. And we have to have the conversation about, and we can't bury our heads in the sand because it's not your responsibility or my responsibility, it's our responsibility. And it goes further than me just making sure my children are okay and taking care of my kids. No, because you know it takes a neighborhood to raise a child, and as a community, we've all got to step up and ensure that we not only are addressing, you know, the current situation out there, but that we're preventing additional young men falling through the cracks and ending up in the same place.
What role does the media play in this, and how do you think the media can assist?
Well, I believe that we, you know, as a whole, our role models are not setting good examples. So if we've got our leaders in our country, and especially our black leaders, like myself as a black leader, if I'm acting in a dysfunctional way, and this is something that our kids are seeing, well, hey, they've got to get out of jail free card, because if our role models, if our leaders can act the fool, then why can't we? You know, and you know, if they're not sophisticated enough to use words and innuendo, they're going to pick up something and use a tool or a weapon. So you know, it's about looking in the mirror, and we have a responsibility. And as a black Bermudian, I take that seriously, and I have a duty to ensure that my actions are setting a good example for our young children. And if my actions are setting the wrong example, shame on me. So as a whole, as a country, we have to address this. And I think that the media has a responsibility to call this stuff out. And we don't really do that in Bermuda. And I think that this is an opportunity we've got to draw the line in the sand, Bermuda, and the media needs to call out that dysfunctional behavior. So if Wayne Scott, as a black leader in this country, is acting the fool, it needs to be called out. And that goes across the board to all of our leaders. Acting the fool needs to be called out. And we're not doing that, I think, effectively in the media either. So what can the media do? Let's call that stuff out, and I'm sure you're very well aware of what I mean with that.
I'm joined here by the Shadow Minister of Sport, Michael Weeks. Again, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Bermuda.
You've heard the minister address some of the concerns and being at the stadium yesterday. First of all, congratulations to the Dandytown Hornets.
Thank you. It's kind of bittersweet now after what happened, but thank you for that. Congratulations.
Yes. Now, it's no secret that this has been an issue in Bermuda for some time. We remember the incident in St. George years ago, then the cup match incident, and several other incidents around sport. But this has just been a progression of now we're using firearms, which is again not a new thing, but amongst a crowd of people. From an opposition point of view, where do we stand? How do we address this?
Well, I'll tell you what, before I get started, I just want to say that my prayers go out to the victims of the young men that got shot and their families. So I just hope everybody a speedy recovery. But in answer to your question, this is not a government or an opposition question or an issue. What we see happening around our country right now is not a football or cricket problem. It's societal. So we have to look at it like that we are all in this together. Right now, it's focused on our young black men. Those are the ones, for the most part, that play football and cricket, and when we see in the news about the gunshots and the violence, it's our young black men. So we have to look at it, not only as a black community, we have to look at it as a whole, from a societal point of view. So that means our churches, our workmen's clubs, the government, the opposition, we all have to come together as one and see how we're going to address this issue.
Now, we were talking earlier about the fact that when we were coming along, we had the community centers, we had all sorts of things, and we used to do a lot of stuff outside, creating different things, teaching ourselves discipline and so forth. You heard the minister address one young man's concern that black men need to step up. But there are places and things that if they're not getting it at home, they can find positive ways to do it. So yes, you want to hang with your friends, you want to be around but at some point in time you have to say, is this friend helping me, taking me down the right path or the wrong path? But how do we get those messages out to those people who want to just be disruptive, want to just be on that side of the law, to say, wherever I go, I'm going to create havoc?
Well, I'm smiling because there are a lot of black role models out there. But as we talked earlier, the sporting and workmen's clubs, our youth centers, I was one of the benefactors of the Pembroke Youth Center, Social Club, Western Stars, everybody knows, Dandytown. So what we have to do is take a look at that. What has happened to our sporting and workmen's clubs? A lot of times when things get cut, and when I say cut, I'm talking the budget rise, the effect of it is felt a lot of times in our sporting and workmen's clubs, in our sports clubs, and our youth centers, because on the outside that may not seem as an important or an important factor or a priority for our community. But like you said, when we were coming up, right, a lot of that instruction was right there in those clubs.
Yeah.
So we have to take another look at it. How do we incorporate sports and community, and even youth development?
Right.
A lot of that youth development came up out of these clubs, and it was organized. It was organized, but it wasn't as one may think. No, there's got to be
structured and streamlined. Now, a lot of people don't like to address this particular comment, but it's a reality comment. When the school system was changed, prior to that, you had people in the East End going to Sands, and you had people in the West End going to St. George's South. You had people from all sorts of the island, all across the island, going to various parishes. When this changed and it became community-based,
Yes.
it almost became a territorial issue, because now I never leave my parish to do anything other than to go and play against this other school. So I'm congregating with just those people in my parish as I get older. Not so much the primary school, but as I get into my high school, and my middle school, now my high school, in my middle school, remember, it's 3 years in the middle school. So that's 3 years with only those people I mingle with, no one outside of my community, because 9 times out of 10, you play at the club in that parish.
And you're developing.
Yeah, yeah. So when you get into the senior school, now you're confronted with all these outside people, and those people, again, the territorial. So now you've got these conflicts that are starting at the senior school level because I've never interacted with somebody outside of my parish, outside of my race.